Boys, what is up, and welcome to another podcast episode. The Eagles lost. The Eagles lost. They are no longer undefeated. That's pretty sick, especially me being a Giants fan. We're taking over the NFC East. We're going crazy. We're taking that first. We're taking the NFC East title this year, boys. I'm so excited. But before we get into our Week 10 overview, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, and share it with a friend. It would mean a lot. And let's get into this overview, guys. Now, I know how I usually do my overviews. I'll go through each game. I'll go through some notable players, whatever. But I think I'm going to actually just go through playoff contention for each team and still go through the game, notable players, whatever. But I'm actually going to, we're pretty far into the season at this point. We're about to be at Week 11 on Thursday, so I feel like we should start looking towards the playoffs. So, it's coming up, boys. It's coming up. All right, so our Thursday night game, obviously, the Panthers beat the Falcons. I've talked about this, but I'm pretty sure I predicted the Panthers beating the Falcons. Yeah, nothing really too notable. The only thing that is noticeable or notable is actually the Falcons' left tackle, Jake Matthews, actually showed up an hour before the game because he had his baby. So he had a baby and played a game in the same day. That's pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. Drake London had a receiving touchdown. Cadrail Hodge, don't know who that is, but he had a receiving touchdown. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They had Cordero Patterson on kick returns. That's interesting. And, Marcus Mariota had an alright game. He had 19 completions for 2 touchdowns, one interception, so whatever. Panthers started PJ Walker. Didn't really throw that much, only had 10 completions for 100 yards. Deonta Foreman had 31 carries for 130 yards and a rushing touchdown. Also, Laviska Shenault Jr. had 2 carries for 1 touchdown, so that's interesting. And J.C. Horn had an interception, but that was pretty much it. It's whatever. That division's is up for grabs. Not that big of a deal. Going through the rest of these games, we had the Seahawks at the Buccaneers. This game was in Germany. I think the best moment from this game is when Leonard Fournette threw that interception to Tariq Woolen when Tom Brady falling, trying to catch the ball. Pretty funny. It looks like they're going to be doing more overseas games. That crowd was awesome. It was definitely nice, but I wasn't watching that. I wasn't waking up at 9 in the morning to watch that. Not happening. Lions at Bears. Now this is a pretty good game, specifically for Justin Fields, but the only noticeable thing here is that I'm pretty sure this is the first time that the Lions have won back-to-back games since 2019, 2020. So good for them, I guess. They're still 3-6. Oh, I just realized I wasn't going through playoff contention. Yeah, I guess I could just go through it really quickly. Falcons and Panthers, maybe. And Seahawks, yes. Buccaneers, yes. Lions, Bears, I don't think either of them are making the playoffs. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, the Lions, this was their first back-to-back win. Back-to-back wins in, I think 3 years, so good for them. Any noticeables? Jared Goff had an alright game, threw for 240 yards, threw a touchdown, whatever. Jamal Williams had 16 carries for a touchdown. DeAndre Swift looks like he's the running back too now. He only had 6 carries compared to Jamal Williams' 16. I don't know if he just came back from injury and they just wanted to save and reserve him, but weird. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 10 receptions for 120 yards. Good day from him. Aiden Hutchinson had a sack. Jeff Okuda had an interception. Nice to see him doing something. Yeah, whatever. The Bears, Justin Fields. Justin Fields is that guy. He's gonna be good. He had 12 completions for 167 yards for 2 touchdowns and a pretty bad interception, but We could overlook that when he rushes 13 times for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty crazy. Cole Kmet had 2 receiving touchdowns for 75 yards. I guess Justin Fields likes to throw to his tight ends. Maybe that's something they look to when they're in their draft this year, or even free agency, because they have the most cap space in the NFL. Not really any noticeables on defense. Khalil Herbert was on kick return, whatever. Yeah, pretty good game. I actually think another noticeable thing was actually during this game, if you follow Connor Burns on TikTok, he went with his buddies, and his buddies were Lions fans, and they were celebrating the win. They won 31-30. They were celebrating the win, and he actually got pushed down the stands by another Bears fan. So that was pretty funny. If I could find the video, I'll put it up right now.
That's cool. That's cool. But goodbye, though. Goodbye.
But yeah, that was pretty funny. The Browns at the Dolphins. That was a bloodbath. The Dolphins won 39-17. So I don't think I should go through that. The Dolphins should make the playoffs. They should. The Browns, probably not this year. Maybe next year when they actually have Deshaun Watson for the full year. So, yeah. Broncos at Titans. This was a pretty close game. The Tennessee Titans ended up winning 17-10. Russell Wilson, it's just not his year, man. He threw for 185 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. The rushing's not there, obviously. What the hell is his name? Javonte Williams is hurt. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. Yeah, Javonte Williams is hurt. But yeah, that offense is just dead. They traded Bradley Chubb on defense too, so it looks like they're kind of gonna rebuild for a little while. Ryan Tannehill got the start for this game for the Titans. He had 250 passing yards for 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 20 carries for 50 yards. Definitely don't like to see that from him. Nick Westbrook, never heard that name before, but he had 120 receiving yards for 2 touchdowns. Good for him. And I'm not really seeing anything too noticeable on defense. So, yeah, good game, whatever. Like I said, the Titans are probably going to win that division. So, whatever. Vikings at Bills. This was probably the game of the week for me. Very good teams going up against each other, and it was a bloodbath. The Vikings ended up coming out on top of the Buffalo Bills, winning in overtime 33-30. Kirk Cousins had himself a game, throwing for 350 yards for 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, but 350 yards, that's insane. Obviously, Dalvin Cook had a pretty big touchdown at the end of the 4th quarter or overtime. I can't remember which, but he had 120 rushing yards with that touchdown I mentioned. Justin Jefferson was definitely the player of the game. He had 200 receiving yards for 1 touchdown. That's really, really good. Patrick Peterson, also the man on defense, 2 interceptions. Good for him. I love Pat Pete, so that's awesome. And yeah, that was pretty much it for the Vikings. The Bills, the Bills played a good game, but the Vikings are just as good as the Bills are, so it's interesting. Josh Allen, obviously, with a partially torn UCL, threw for 330 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Both of those interceptions obviously being very costly. Devin Singletary rushed for 13 carries, 47 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's interesting. I don't know why Devin Singletary is getting the carries when they just traded for Nyheim Hines. I mean, I might be dumb and he might be injured or something, but I don't even see him on my stat sheet. Like, this is insane to me. Whatever. If he's injured, just disregard what I said. But no, he was here for receiving. He has 1 receiving. He had 1 reception for 9 yards. What the hell are they doing? They just traded for this guy and they're not even using him. That's dumb. Stephon Diggs, he had himself a game, 130 yards on 12 receptions. Gabe Davis did pretty well, 6 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. So good from him. Their defense did good. Christian Benford had an interception. Dane Jackson had an interception. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. They got Naheem Hines on punt returns. Whatever. I digress. Whatever. They should both be making the playoffs. Obviously, the Bills fall to third in that division now, but that division's so close up at the top. You got the Jets, Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are 1, Jets are 2, and the Bills are 3. And obviously, the Bills are 3 because the Bills have lost to both of those teams. So, I mean, I think the Bills should have a pretty good record to end the year, so not that big of a deal. Giants at Texans at oh my god. Texans at Giants. Texans at Giants. We can go through some of the notables. Davis Mills had himself a pretty good game. He threw for 320 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Dameon Pierce for 17 carries, rushed for 95 yards. So, yeah, whatever. This team just needs to get better. I don't know what else to say. The Giants, obviously, are having a pretty good year. Daniel Jones threw for 200 yards on 13 completions with 2 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley had 35 carries for 150 yards and 1 touchdown. Darius Slayton had himself a receiving touchdown. Lawrence Cager had himself a touchdown. Jason Pinnock had a sack and a half. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Not really seeing anything else that's too eye-opening. I guess, I mean, I'm a big Giants fan. I think the Giants are going to make the playoffs. I would be really upset if they didn't. The Texans, they're not making the playoffs. No chance in hell. So, I mean, I guess my question is, do the Giants re-sign Daniel Jones at the end of this year? Because I know they declined his 5th-year option. Or this is his 5th year and they're not going to re-sign him or something, whatever. Saquon Barkley is also due for a contract, and he said to the media this past week that he wants to be a Giant for life. I would personally love to have him be a Giant for life. He's awesome. It's just going to be interesting what we see, what we plan to do. If we tanked this year and we sucked, obviously we wouldn't re-sign Daniel Jones, but he's making a case for himself to get re-signed. So I don't know, maybe we re-sign Saquon Barkley, we trade somebody on our team, trade up in the draft and try to draft maybe like CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, one of those guys. I don't know. It's just interesting to think about, but not something that we have to think about right now. Giants should be making the playoffs. Texans, not happening. The next game, if you'll just load. Jaguars at Chiefs. Chiefs won 27-17. The Chiefs should make the playoffs. Jaguars need another year to rebuild. When next year when Calvin Ridley comes back, I think they'll be pretty good. They'll have Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne in the backfield. Trevor Lawrence will have another year to progress. That team's going to be nasty in a couple years. Saints at Steelers. Steelers won 20. Or they won 10-20. Whatever. The Saints aren't making the playoffs, and neither are the Steelers. Colts at Raiders. Now, this game was awesome just because their interim, the Indianapolis Colts interim coach Jeff Saturday actually tweeted out a couple weeks ago how poorly the Raiders looked, and he quite literally in his first week proved what he said. He came in and he beat the Raiders. So that's definitely a big L for the Raiders. Matt Ryan, I'm pretty sure this was his first game back after being benched, and he threw for 222 yards with 1 touchdown. Pretty good from him. Jonathan Taylor having a Jonathan Taylor-esque type game, having 22 carries for 150 yards and 1 touchdown. So it looks like they're getting the wheels spinning over there. It looks like they're figuring out what needs to go on, and they're using their guys to their advantage, which is nice to see. Paris Campbell had a touchdown reception. Usually I would go through notables on defense, but I actually think the notable thing to realize is that Shaquille Leonard is actually going to be out for the rest of the season, so it'll be interesting to see how this defense pans out with the rest of the season. And, yeah, that was pretty much it. The Raiders, Derek Carr had 250 passing yards for 2 touchdowns. The problem isn't Derek Carr; it's their defense. I mean, I feel like Derek Carr has been playing pretty good. Josh Jacobs has been playing really good this season. I mean, even this game he had 20 carries for 1 touchdown and 80 yards. Not the worst game, but he's producing. Devontae Adams had a touchdown for 130 yards. Foster Morrow, however you say that, had a touchdown. It's the defense. They're not doing anything. The only person on defense was Max Crosby. He had a sack, and that was it. Nobody else did anything. No interceptions, no anything. Like it's embarrassing, and it sucks. It sucks if you're a Raiders fan. I'm not a Raiders fan, but yeah, that sucks. The Raiders aren't going to make the playoffs, and I don't think the Colts will either, unless Jeff Saturday is just actually the greatest coach of all time and goes undefeated until the playoffs. But even then, I don't even think their record's good enough to win out their division. Yeah, they're 4-5-1. The only team they got to beat out is the Titans. So, you know what? Maybe I'll give them a maybe. But that loss of Shaquille Leonard really is not good. The Cardinals at Rams. The Rams are done, so Cooper Kupp is out. Who is Matthew Stafford going to throw the ball to? It's donezo. This team is donezo. They're not playing for the rest of the year. Also, they're not re-signing Odell Beckham. You think he's going to go to a team that's losing? No. He's trying to win a ring. He's trying to win another ring. So that's not happening. Yeah, but the Cardinals did end up coming out on top, 27-17. They started Colt McCoy for this game. I didn't even realize Kyler Murray was injured, but whatever. Colt McCoy, he had a pretty good game. Threw for 240 yards and a touchdown. James Conner had 22 carries for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns, so cool, I guess. And Budda Baker had an interception, so that's cool, I guess. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Cardinals. Looking at the Rams, Matthew Stafford didn't even play this game. John Wolford played. Don't know who that is. Threw for 212 yards for 1 touchdown and 1 interception, so that sucks. Darrell Henderson had a rushing touchdown on 20 yards for 6 carries. Yikes. Tyler Higbee had most of the receptions and had 75 yards. That sucks. And then Cooper Kupp obviously got injured. He had 3 receptions for -1 yards, so that's funny. And, yeah. I mean, the defense looks... looking at the names that I'm seeing on defense, Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, Aaron Donald, Taylor Rapp, Leonard Floyd. Like, this team should be good. I just don't understand why they're not playing good. But whatever, it's too late. The team needs to rebuild. I think they need to trade what they have right now and try to just get draft picks and just rebuild, because I don't see the team getting any better from here if you keep everybody that you got, especially since Aaron Donald almost retired last year. Might as well still try to get something for him next year, or even when the draft comes up, trade up a couple spots in the draft or something. I don't know. This team has to do something. This was an interesting game. Cowboys at Packers. Packers came out on top. Packers got the Cowboys number. They actually won this game in OT. Looking at some notables, Dak Prescott threw for 265 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Ew. Tony Pollard had 22 carries for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. Tony Pollard is the running back 1. Ezekiel Elliott does not exist. CeeDee Lamb had a really good game. He had 150 reception yards for 2 touchdowns. Dalton Schultz had a touchdown, so good for them. And yeah, nobody really did anything on defense. So, that sucks. The Packers. Aaron Rodgers had himself a game. He had 14 completions for 224 yards with 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones had 24 carries for 140 yards and 1 touchdown. The player of the game, without a doubt in my mind, is Christian Watson. The first-round pick wide receiver that they got this year. Hasn't really done anything this year. And he has himself a little breakout game. So good for him. 4 receptions, 107 yards for 3 touchdowns. Some real Randy Moss type of stats right there. And Jonathan Ford had 2 interceptions. Don't know who that is, but he had 2 interceptions, so good for him. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The Cowboys, they'll probably make the playoffs. And the Packers, I mean, I'm trying to think. Well, the Vikings are in that division. Yikes. Maybe not. Maybe. The Packers are a maybe. You can't count out the back-to-back MVP. You just, I don't know. I think that team's pretty good. The only thing that really sucks on that team is their wide receivers. The wide receivers need to actually catch the ball. But, I mean, if Christian Watson, if this game wasn't a fluke for him and he actually plays well for the rest of the season, I could see them making like a wild card. So, why not? Chargers at 49ers. Pretty interesting game. 49ers did come out on top 22-16. Justin Herbert threw for 196 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Austin Eckler had 6 carries for 24 yards. This offense is weird, man. They should be doing a lot better, and they're just not. It's weird. DeAndre Carter, don't know who that is, had a touchdown. Good for him, though, I guess. And nobody did anything on defense. Khalil Mack had a sack. That was literally it. Nobody else did anything. That's... yeah, that team's weird. Obviously, Keenan Allen's out. Mike Williams is out. Maybe that's why Justin Herbert isn't getting that same production value, but... I don't know. I feel like he should still be doing better. Jimmy Garoppolo, 20 completions for 240 yards. Good for him. Elijah Mitchell had 18 carries for 90 yards. Christian McCaffrey, 14 carries, and he had 1 touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo had a rushing touchdown. Good for him. Nobody really did anything for receiving. Hufanga, that's my guy. Hufanga had an interception. That's my guy. I love that guy. I watched him play a couple times. That's my guy. He looks like Troy Polamalu. That's Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu. And yeah, it was a good game. Whatever. Looking through our last game, obviously the big game between the Commanders and the Eagles. Eagles lost that O. The Eagles lost their O. I don't think anybody saw that coming. That's all I'm gonna say. Nobody saw that coming. So good for them, man. Taylor Heineke didn't even have a good game. He had 211 passing yards for 1 interception. So yeah, he definitely got carried by his running backs. Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson both had a touchdown. Brian Robinson really looks like he's going to be the running back 1 going forward. Pretty interesting, because I feel like Antonio Gibson could still provide a bunch of value. But whatever. If it works, it works, I guess. Terry McLaurin had 130 yards receiving. Good for him. He's the captain of that offense. Benjamin St. Just. That's a funny name. Looking through the rest of these, Derek Forrest had an interception. Don't know who that is, but he got an interception. Good for him. Antonio Gibson's doing kick returns. Yeah. And yeah. Oh, wait. Do I think these teams are gonna make the playoffs? The Eagles are definitely making the playoffs. They would have to lose like every game for the rest of the season to not make the playoffs. So I actually think it's harder for them not to make the playoffs than to make the playoffs at this point. And the Commanders are interesting. The Commanders, I feel like could be a good team. They're just insanely inconsistent. It's kind of crazy, actually. They're consistently inconsistent. I mean, they're gonna need guys like Carson Wentz, and obviously when he comes back, to play better. Brian Robinson has established himself as a really good running back in that system, so that's really good for them to see. I feel like they're gonna need some guys on defense to really pop out. For example, I haven't heard anything about what the hell is that guy's name? Chase Young. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. I haven't heard any. I'm pretty sure Chase Young is injured. Never mind. I take that back. But I could say the same thing about Montez Sweat. I haven't really heard a thing about him. Deron Payne. I haven't heard a thing about him. John Bostic, Cameron Curl. Like, those guys. The guys that we know need to start playing better. Not the guys that we don't know. I feel like that's the problem with the Commanders. The big name guys on their team aren't playing up to their full potential. And I feel like once they do that, they could make the playoffs. So I guess I'm just gonna put them at a maybe. They're a maybe for me. I don't know. Take it or leave it. And yeah, that was my Week 10 overview. Now I do have one more thing I want to talk about before I end this episode, and it's actually about Odell Beckham. He's talking about signing somewhere by the end of this month, and I don't know if you realized it, but it's November 5th. So he's either going to be playing next week or the week after that, because that's when the month ends. We got 2 weeks of November left. So it should be interesting to see where he goes. Obviously, it's a lot different now. I don't think the Rams are in contention to get him anymore. So that's interesting. I think the Packers could still go out and get him. I think this win definitely shows that over the Cowboys shows that they could still be very competitive. So I don't think that should be a problem. The Cowboys obviously were interested. I've heard a lot of things about the Giants. I don't know. Like I said, I'm biased. I live close to. I have all the Giants feed on my Instagram and stuff, so I don't know if I'm just getting bombarded by propaganda, but it'd be cool to see him there. It's just also interesting because the Giants don't really pass that much. It's kind of Saquon's offense, but it'd be nice to get a receiver. And are there any other teams that I'm missing? Oh, how could I forget about this? This week, actually, or this week, if not maybe last week. I'm pretty sure it was this week, though. He was actually spotted watching the Vikings. Like, he was in Minnesota watching the game. He was on the field. Like, I don't know what that's about. But imagine that receiving core of Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham, and Adam Thielen. That would be crazy. Kirk Cousins would not have a reason to not be good at that point. So, yeah. Interesting. And, yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to talk about for today. That was my Week 10 NFL overview. Tomorrow, I'm probably going to come at you guys with a Week 11 prediction. So, that should be fun. And, yeah, I really appreciate you if you made it to the video this far. It really means the world to me. If you got this far, I would also like to remind you to please subscribe. I am doing a giveaway to one of my subscribers once I hit 50 subscribers, so I would really want you to be involved in that and try to win that gift card. And yeah, I will see you guys in tomorrow's podcast episode. Peace.